are now listening to Changing Lives, a podcast presented by Mount Gilead Full Gospel International Ministries, hosted by co-pastor Elena Robertson.
Hello and welcome to Changing Lives, the podcast where we're changing lives with the Word of God. Today I am hosting. My name is Daniel Robertson III. I am co-pastor Elena Robertson's oldest son. And today I have with me Coach and his wife, Coach Giles and Tondrea Giles. And today we're going to be dealing with mental health.
Okay.
And so the Giles are really close to me, and we'll get into a little bit more of that a little bit later. But I'll let them introduce themselves, a little bit about what they do professionally, and we'll go from there. So Coach and Ms. Giles, welcome.
Yes, sir.
You guys care to introduce yourselves a little bit more, give them a little bit more than what I gave them, and what you guys do.
Yes, sir. And again, thank you, co-pastor, and thank you, Daniel, for having us. Like you said, I am Tondrea Giles, and this is my husband, Coach Kelvin Giles. We operate a business. It's actually specifically for youth and families. The name of our business is Dynamic Works Program Support. God gave us this vision years and years ago. We didn't know how much was going to, what all it was going to evolve, but it ended up being just beautiful, beautiful flower that has blossomed to. We started with basically transporting kids to and from school. 100% of our clients right now are through the Department of Social Services. Most of our clients, all of our clients are through the Department of Social Services. These kids are in foster care. And of course, they needed a way to get to and from school. When you're being removed from your home for whatever reason, there's no way to really determine what school we're going to place them in, how they're going to get there. So it's a whole lot that's involved in it. But the goal was to keep the kids as safe as possible. They were already experiencing traumatic events by being removed from their homes. So why not keep them in school, in their home school? So that's how we started with transportation. Lo and behold, things just kept growing. Coach had a vision of mentoring kids. How can we incorporate this in the business that we have? Well, there was a need for it. And we started with therapeutic mentoring. That then grew into independent living coaching, where we're coaching kids that are aging out of foster care that are not necessarily going to be adopted and moving into adulthood. We're training them to become adults. And then last but not least, most recently, we opened up the preschool academy, ages 3 to 5, and also before and after school programs. So this is Dynamic Works Program Support. Am I leaving out anything, Coach?
No.
It's a lot. I know it's a lot. And it's still growing. It's still growing. It's still growing.
It is. I would also say that at the end of the day, we're very humble and grateful to co-pastor and to Daniel. What we really saw happening was by coaching football, coaching athletics, I saw a need, but it turned into getting connected with the Department of Social Services. And with that being said, as Ms. Giles alluded to, we kind of like started in one area, but then we kind of figured out, well, God, the calling. And so the call was to work with kids, to let them know that someone cares. And I think that's the biggest component when you're dealing with at-risk children. They have to know that someone cares. I will say that without what we do, I think we're a great dynamic pair because she can finish what I start and I can finish what she starts. She's my best friend, you know. I think God saw it in the beginning. It was kind of like a match made in heaven. You know, it wasn't my background. It wasn't her background. So we knew that it had to be of God. And so with that being said, we just followed the path, talked to the man of God about it years ago. And he said, I think y'all can do it. And so here we are, you know, trying to make a difference in society.
Good. And, you know, I've been able to, you know, work alongside you guys in different ways. And so I forgot what year we met, but I was in high school.
Yes.
And I was about to come out of high school. And at the time, I believe you were coaching at Meadowbrook.
Correct.
And Coach was the plug. we could come and while he was there, and we would work out. We would go out on the field and do some different things. And so from that moment, and I forget how that came about, but that was kind of the first time that I began to get familiar with kind of, the person that you are, even with myself being a teen at the time, nothing overbearing, we were really just hanging out, but, that encouragement and that support was definitely felt. And then I know a little bit later, there was a group of guys that you said, hey, I want you to come and, kind of mentor these guys, come in once a week, I believe it was. And we would talk to them and do some different things after school. And then from there, now, through the pandemic and through different things here at church, you guys work closely with me in youth ministry. Ms. Giles, I know she works with my sister with the young ladies, and Coach Giles, and both of you guys work with all the kids, and assist us in that as we navigate, because things change and things are changing very quickly. With it's not a scary thing necessarily, but it is something that you have to be aware of. You have to have people that have a heart for the kids, for teens, because without that heart, it's hard to make those adjustments.
Correct.
And do what you have to do to really be able to reach them. So the Giles are that, and that's my little spiel. And like I said, that's why we call Coach Giles, Coach Giles. Not only is it the sports that you coach, but also just the way that you carry yourself and that you work with other people. Yes. So, particularly young adults and teens. So it's Mental Health Month, and we've been going to be talking about mental health as it pertains to teens. Or let's backtrack a little bit. When it comes to mental health, what is mental health? And then number two, how does that differ, if at all, with teens and young adults?
Okay. Mental health is basically your emotional, your mental, and physical well-being. Sometimes that does get off-kiltered through stress, through trauma, but all in all, the bottom line is if something is if it's off-kiltered, then this is where the problems occur. This is where you will see the depression. This is where you will see the isolation. These are all signs of mental health. Again, it comes in waves and different forms. But again, that emotional, psychological well-being, if anything's off-kiltered, that's, in my opinion, that's mental health. That's mental health. That's mental health.
Got you. Coach, what you mentioned trauma, or not necessarily trauma, but you mentioned trauma. With teenagers, what are some things that you have seen that are traumatic experiences or things that lead to that? Like, what are some things that may be a little typical that you may see with that age range?
I would say that when you start seeing them isolated, when they're not willing to participate a lot, there's something mentally not connecting. And you see that when an individual is going somewhere and they just sit by themselves. If you're at an event, and I see it quite often, or if we're doing transportation and they just won't open their mouth to speak, I believe that's a sign. Mm-hmm. And we see that quite often, even if it's not in a regular setting. And if they're playing sports, it really shows, because it will show by them not being a team participant. It will be like, okay, well, I'm gonna do what I gotta do, but then I'm going by myself. Mm-hmm. So to me, I'm sitting back and I'm saying something's not right. And I always, when I pick it up, I always share it with my wife. And so then we'll get together and we'll be like, okay, we know what we need to be praying for. So those are some of the signs that I pick up. The part of not being accepted. I think that's very critical.
Okay.
When they're not accepted with their peers, you can tell that that's something that's not new to them because they feel there's always an everyday experience for them.
Right.
You know.
What's what are some of the causes? Like, what are some of the experiences that some of these kids that you work with have had, whether it be something at home or
that's good.
something that they've dealt with? What are some of those things that will cause them to act or do some of those things?
I would say being raised in a single family home. You know, you have like almost 14 million single family homes that are responsible for about 28 million kids. That's a lot. That's a lot to deal with. To learn that in a normal setting, whether it's male or female, you will see a two-parent home and you may see success out of a two-parent home. Not that it can't come from a single-parent home. That's one. Two, bullying. I think that's a major problem because once you're taken from your home, now you're seeing a different attitude. And so kids tend to figure out, well, that kid doesn't belong in a two-parent home. He's in foster care or a group home. So that kind of shows the sign of him being emotionally drained, seeing his parents, his dad or his mom is not there. And I think that really wears on a young man or a young lady.
Got you. So with adults, with parents who may, and we'll dive more into more specifics a little later on, but what role do adults play, or, you know, the guardian, grandparent, or if you're a coach, or, you know, if you're just a figure in that young person's life, what role should you play?
I feel that you should play, it's going to be a significant role because they're looking for that support, that affirmation coming from an adult to say, hey, you can do it. Hey, I believe in you. Hey, I trust you. But when you don't give them that, now it's like, and if they see you compromise, they've seen enough in their traumatic experience, the reason why they're struggling. But if you compromise it and they get wind of it, if they see it, it's like you don't know what their outcome is going to be. So I think that we as adults, we have to be in position not to shun them, but to always communicate with them, give them that sense of affirmation that, hey, I'm there for you. Hey, you can talk to me anytime. That's what I do. You know, hey, you good? You know, and I want to make them comfortable. But when they feel that they're isolated by an adult, then that causes them really to shut down. So I think that's being able to communicate. I think being able to communicate.
Being able to communicate.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I know for me. I'm big on educating and educating parents on how to deal with kids that are maybe withdrawn or showing signs of isolation. Again, having an open door policy in your home. And communication is the key. Not being afraid to address if there really is an issue, because I find that some parents are ashamed. Mental health is not talked about in most African-American homes. Now it's a big thing, but years ago, and even some parents now, they don't really address the issues. You can see kids walking around doing different things and you know there's a problem, but you're like, oh, they'll be okay. That's just how they are, or you know what I mean? And just they'll be fine. But really, there is a serious issue. So knowing when to open up and share and making your child feel safe to come to you. Parents need to recognize and also understand that if they can't talk to anyone else, they should be able to talk to mom and dad. Yeah. Even if it's an aunt or whoever that child is living with, make it safe for them to come and speak to you about anything. Because if not, what they do is hold all that stuff and it's a bunch of gunk. a bunch of gunk sitting here and it has nowhere to go. Kids don't know how to articulate feelings the healthy way. We have to train them. We have to help them and coach them on, when to release, how to release. So that's big for me, just being able, just keeping the communication open at all times with families.
What would you guys say to a household if a parent, let's say, has mishandled some things and that trust isn't there between the parent and the child, to where the child doesn't feel comfortable with coming to the parent? I know it's a process, but what would you say to that parent? What are some things that they can do to try to reopen that door that may be shut? I know sometimes we, in the nature of working at a church and working with people, we do see change in parents, but they still are like, okay, I've changed. I'm not the way that I used to be. I want my child to be able to come and share some things with me, but now, man, it's, I feel like I did a lot of damage with the way that I used to behave, the way I used to react. But what are some things that they can do to get back to the household, to a safe place?
I think first, it's always spiritual for me. You need to pray, especially if the damage is already done. God's really going to have to help you to direct you carefully on how to, bring everything back together. Reconciliation, reconcile. And it is, you're right. It's a process. It's a process. First thing, again, it goes right back to what I said before, communicating, spending time with that child even more. Not so much, because a lot of times, 100% of the times, most of the things that are done is done in word, our mouth. Our mouths are very powerful. They can be a powerful weapon. And if we misuse that, then we know what can happen. Kids remember, they hold on to that. The main thing is being there for your child. Sometimes it doesn't always take you preaching to them all the time, not all the time. Just being there, loving them. Say, for instance, I'm going to give you an example. If you see a child and something is wrong, they may be experiencing a tantrum or just isolated a whole lot. Go in their room, knock on the door, even to tell you, get out, Mom, get out, Dad, I don't want to be bothered. Yeah. Be there, be present. Be there, be present, because you have to gain their trust once again. And sometimes it takes a long time, but it's going to be okay. Because eventually what that child's going to say is, my mom didn't give up. My dad didn't give up. I need to figure this out. And eventually, it's like I said, they'll start coming closer and closer and closer and closer to you. And one day they are going to open up. You're going to tell them it's okay. It's okay for you to talk, and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
What's so with you guys working with children or teens, I know sometimes you may not necessarily have access to or to be able to work with the parent all the time.
Right.
And so through you guys' vantage point with working with some of these teens, what are some of the things as a person who is outside of the household, such as, people like yourselves, youth pastors, coaches, other adults that make up that community? What is something that you would say to that person from an outside perspective on how they can support?
Be authentic. Because if you're not, they're going to pick it up. Because if you're not authentic within, they're going to pick up, well, why is he around? Is there some kind of reason why he's around? Is that individual trying to gain something from me, get something from me? Again, it for me, it's back to spirituality, because most of the world will do anything to get someone's attention. And so, but the Bible tells us to be not conformed to the world. So if we're not conforming to the world, that means we have to be authentic in who we are and whom's we are. Because that individual, that child, they're watching. And when they watch, they're dependent on us to help them get through what they're going through. And if we're not authentic, then we're no good to no one. So it's like coaching. There's no need of me to be a coach, and then I'm not going over film to put the kid in the right position so we can be successful. So it's a lot of different components, but I really believe at the end of the day, if you're not authentic, you're not going to be any help, especially to a child that's at risk.
Mm-hmm. What's a success story that you guys may have with working with children, coaching them, to see someone go from this point, and after a period of time, after pushing, now they're at a much better place than what they were. You guys have any?
Yeah, we do. We do. We actually have one right now that we're celebrating. We have been working with him for maybe 4 years.
4 years.
4 years now. He originally started in a group home, and his behavior was just not there where he could get placed in a foster home. He was removed from the home because of his mom. She was on drugs for years and years, and also suffered from mental health illness. That in turn triggered all kind of internal things for him, and behavior-wise, no one would, open their homes up to allow him to come in. So basically, he stayed there his entire from 11 all the way up until he turned 18. He was bounced around a lot from different group homes, psychiatric wards, just doing different things year after year. And Coach and I didn't give up. We were there consistently. We prayed long and very, very hard for him. Yeah. And this is a kid, like, he just didn't care. He didn't care, and he allowed us to know that I don't care if you don't care, but we never went anywhere. Yeah. And again, remember, I told you before about consistency and just being there. We weren't there preaching the Bible to him. We weren't there, but we were just present all the time. And lo and behold, he turned 18. It was time for him to age out. We didn't want him to do this, but he decided he wanted to go back to his biological mom's home, even though we recommended this is not the place for you. You got removed. It's toxic. You got removed for a reason. Lo and behold, he decided, I'm going to go back to her anyway. Coach got the call, and he was like, I can't do it. You guys were right. Yeah. You guys are right, and I need help. He said, I wasted all those years just being angry and frustrated and thinking I could do it on my own. And you guys have always been in position. And basically, crying out, will you help me? Yes, we're going to help you. This is our job to help you. He ended up staying in his mom's shed. They just threw a mattress out there for him. And that's how he had to live for the past
3 weeks?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Coach and I, we couldn't rest. It was like, what's going on with us? But we really were in mourning because we knew that this child was out there without, any type of support from his family, knowing that's where he really wanted to be with his mom. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is not right. We began to pray. Lo and behold, we started making calls immediately. We got to find him someplace to stay. We got the call, 2 days ago? Maybe 2 days ago. 3 days ago. We found an emergency placement for him. Mm-hmm. Today, right before we even came here, that's what we were doing. He's moved in. He's safe. He has an apartment now. Yes. And we really, really are excited about that. He's getting his GED, and we're just excited for him. We're really, really happy. The communication is there with us. And I think he calls us, maybe every 3 hours, seems like, just to let us know. So before we didn't have any communication, but now he's letting us know, okay, I'm doing this today. Are we going to the bank? Are we going to the grocery store? What are we doing? So, we're really excited about this particular.
Because over the years, we've dealt with quite a few kids. Mm-hmm. This kid had a substance abuse problem.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
He was willing to tell you that he had one. Mm-hmm. But I told him, not around me. Mm-hmm. And so you know how we always talk about submission in the body of Christ here. Big word, mm-hmm. big word. But he finally submitted. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you can see the turnaround. And it blesses me because we didn't give up, because we're being trained never to give up. Mm-hmm. So our training from here at Mount Gilead helps tremendously when we're dealing with these children. Without the proper training, it's no way we'll be able to do what we're doing. Absolutely not.
Yeah, it sounds like, and And I can attest to this too. You know, that patience pays off after a while. You can be working with someone for 5-6 years, like, are they, you know, and then, you know, that moment, that thing clicks where, you know, you guys talked about being present. So, you know, sometimes I feel like that patience and sometimes, you know, you may be pushing, but that's great to hear that, you know what I mean, he finally, you know, accepted the help and realized that. Mental health is talked about a lot nowadays. And as Christians, you know, of course, you know, someone in the world or someone that's outside of this belief may think it's biased. But why is God so important as it pertains to mental health? I personally, like I said, you know, say I'm biased or whatever, but I don't think that there's a lot of power without God present to really, you know, restore a mental health situation. You know, I think it's more so strategy than the spiritual side is the technique that a lot of people may use. But what role does God play in mental health, and why is God important?
I always refer back to the prophet Elijah, the man of God. He was really dealing with mental health. We talking about going way back. When he went to hide in that cave, that was mental health. And God still was with him. And so the only way I believe that he got through what he got through was because of God. And I'm with you. I may be biased, but I don't think it can happen without God in the plan. A lot of people say that we got this formula to fix it. God is the ultimate formula. I think you can find that story in 1 Kings, I believe it is, chapter 17 and chapter 19. When he was in that cave, you're talking about the man of God that was struggling. He was hiding because they were trying to kill him. And so we see what he did when he depended on God as his help. That's how I can say that on the spiritual side of it, your relationship with the Lord will drive you into your right mental state. Without it, I just don't believe it'll happen. I think, you know, we just going around the bush and it won't happen.
I agree.
I think that's big. I think even you mentioning that just made me think back to Jesus in the garden. Before he had to go, you know, down the cross, and you know, we know that he was 100% man, 100% God at the same time. And you know, they say he was sweating blood. You know, the pressure of that situation. But his, I think he kind of showed us that connecting. Let me get in contact with heaven. Let me pray. When there's a lot of pressure on a situation. This made me think about that as well. With the nature of what we do, and you know, we talk about parents, and from a youth pastor's perspective, you know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and just understanding of how this whole entire thing works. You know, some people would say the phrase, "It takes a village," and so, you know, you got people like myself, you have other people, if you're in a part of a church, you have coaches, you have, you know, people like yourselves. But what would you say is the role of a support system? If there was a child that you could really set them up, or, you know, let's say this person is 13, 14 years old, male or female, and they don't have any support system, what are the key components that they would need?
I would say love. Again, love. Because that's what it's going to take to pull them out. That support system could be male, could be female. But I would say most love. that's what the support, because it's a long haul when you're dealing. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it's a long haul. It's a process when you're dealing, especially with children and mental health, because again, they don't know how to navigate through the emotions. They don't know how to navigate through the feelings. Support can be a counselor, a school counselor. Support can be a parent. It could be a youth pastor. It could be a trusted source. But again, it has to start the root foundation. It all revolves, for me, in my opinion, back to the Word of God. So we're biased to the Word of God, and that person has to have the love of God in them to be able to coach them through this process and to be able to help them through the process. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without the love of Christ being inside of us and going through it for the long haul and being willing to go through it to the long haul. Yeah.
Got you. I think it's so important. I see what I typically see is that the kids that succeed, they have those different pieces.
Yes.
And there's love coming from all different angles. And they normally have an easier path to good mental health than someone who was missing it.
Right.
They may be missing it at home and move into getting it from somewhere else, but normally they're a little bit more behind than the person who's getting it at home, in the community, at school.
Right.
I think that's big. When it pertains to stress, for adults, we know that can look a little bit different.
Right.
You're making a living. You're trying to provide. There are different things that adults will stress about that can cause mental health issues.
Yes.
Marriage, things like that. But as a teenager, typically those aren't things that you're concerned with just yet. Can you guys dig into stress in teens? What does that look like? What causes it for that age group?
The pressure of succeeding. There's a lot of pressure when it comes down to whether they can succeed or not at what they're doing, because they may have seen success from their parents or from someone close to the family. And then when they're not doing it, when they're not succeeding to that level, then sometimes they get pushed back because they're not where they think that they should be. So it calls that teen to stress about, how can I get to that level? How can I get to that place that the expectations of who they are should be coming to me so I can get to where they are? And so they'll begin to stress. And then that stress will lead a lot of times to drug abuse.
To
And
relieve the stress.
Right. A coping mechanism. So they'll say that's what they use to cope with that stress, not being able to fulfill what it is that they see, or that parent or that adult not being a part of their life, supporting their dream, but always want someone else to support them in what they're doing. Teens have a tendency to think that if I don't get the support, then you don't love me. And so when they sense that lack of love, it's like, what do we do now? And so then they begin to worry. They begin to communicate. They'll go to social media to look for things. They're looking for love in the wrong places. And sometimes it all starts at home. If their stress cannot start in a place that they're not in school, home and school. Most of the time a child spends most of his time at school. If they don't fit in with their peers. If you're not up to date, then they get to stress, and when am I going to get there? Just like an adult trying to figure out, how am I going to get to the next level? Well, it comes back to God. It comes back to God. Don't stress about it. Trust in the Lord. And so I think that if we can instill with that adult to build that trust, that foundation in God, then I think that stress will start to die down some, if that makes sense. And then we'll see the progression of them going into adulthood.
Got you. Earlier, you briefly mentioned, some signs, some things that you may see within youth and young adults. And, before we started the podcast, we were talking a little bit about time management. And I was interested. I was like, let me not dig into it right now. Let's wait till we hit record. But when it pertains to time management, share with me, what that has to do with all of this. How does time management play a part in mental health?
How you spend your time. Education is real big for us as parents. So we don't want to show or kind of instill something that we don't believe in. And I think you have to be able to spend your time wisely. You have to be able to know that a paper is due. Can't wait till today and it's due tomorrow.
It's creating stress.
It's creating stress.
Got you.
You got a football game or any kind of sporting event, but you have to do these assignments before that event or you won't be able to do them. Time management. Let's put this time over here, this window, to do what we need to do so that I can get this workout in, so I can spend time with my family. So then that way, everybody's in a very good comfort zone. But when you don't have that window here, then you're going to see yourself pulling back from your family, pulling back the stress, depending on the world. Again, we can't depend on the world. And then you start being led by the world because you didn't manage your time right. So I even tell my own children, I'm not going to tell you what I heard. I'm going to tell you what I know. If you don't manage your time right, you're going to be going in a circle. Because that's what we're being trained. We have to manage what we become and who we become. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's big. I know even as an adult, I've my more successful weeks come when I use something called a block calendar. So where literally everything I'm doing throughout the day is blocked because life and my purpose, there's things that it's a lot of demand. And if I'm just kind of just going with whatever, people calling, this person needs this person asking about that, and all these different things. I can relate to that. That can cause stress because now you drop the ball over here, and I do see how that can be huge, and I wish I had more of that, or at least be more aware of that as a teenager as well, because I was the type of kid where certain classes, first period would be there, but when I got off the bus and everyone was hanging out at the lockers before we went to class, that's when I was doing my homework.
Right.
And there was a lot of other kids as well, to where it's just like the time management was terrible, but I can't remember a lot of moments where there was someone or some type of something where that was being dealt with. Time management. I want to know, as a teen, if there's a teen watching this, or if there's a parent, how do you know when it's time to get more help? I know that there are certain levels of stress and certain things that there may be present in a child or within yourself, but at what point do you really need to seek professional help, outside help? Like, when do you need to escalate that?
If you see that it's consistent, it's not changing, it's not getting better over time, and time can be, I will allow maybe just a few weeks. I'm being honest, with the way the world is now. Our kids are combating so much stuff so fast, so many things coming at them. Right now, I would say within a few weeks, you notice nothing is changing. It's the same thing. It may just a different day, but the same thing over and over and over again. You need to reach out to someone, a trusted friend, your pastor, a leader, pediatrician, your doctor, school counselor, just a trusted source, and begin to ask questions. And let them know what you're seeing in your child, because they can probably pinpoint what the next step is for you. Yeah,
I agree.
That's good.
Yeah.
What would you say to a parent to encourage them? Because, like I said, I know it's not something that's just here and there. Raising children is not. I don't want to necessarily say it's not easy, But there can be challenges.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there can be a situation or a strive that you can get in where things just flow, and it will be enjoyable and easy.
Yeah.
But there are challenges,
Right.
you know, with everything that children and teens are dealing with now. But for someone who's in a situation where you don't have the best relationship with your child, you don't, you know, you want to develop that trust, your child doesn't open up to you, what would you say to encourage a parent, you know, that's in the middle of that situation?
I would say, don't give up. The battle is long sometimes, it's hard, but don't give up. Be consistent, be diligent. Praying is the key for everything that Coach and I do. We pray, we believe hard, and just trusting God. God is our foundation. That's the bottom line. We're biased, so there's no way of getting around it. He's our foundation. He's the author and finisher of our faith. That's where everything comes from. Because it's going to be Him to strengthen you, to give you the tools and equip you what you need spiritually to combat what you're dealing with. Just don't give up. Love your child. Love your child. Love your child. That's what I would say.
Amen.
That's good.
Coach, what would you say to, you know, maybe it's a teen watching, a young adult. What would you say to that person who's in the middle of a situation where, whether it's stress, whether it's a traumatic event, you know, whether they've felt like they've been dealing with mental health, whether it's fresh or whether they're deep into it, and feel like maybe giving up, what would you say to a student, you know, who is in the middle of something like that?
Find that confidant, that person that you can trust. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have that one person that you can trust, you're going to go through down a long, lonely road that will lead to more trouble. Find that one person that you can trust. It could be male or female, female or male. Find that one person that you can trust. Talk about it. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Open up, because sometimes when you harbor that hurt and that guilt from inside, it tends to expand. Yeah. It's like what we're being taught. You know, whatever you think on will expand. And it's the same thing. If you're depressed, let someone know. Yes, in the church, we have plenty of leaders. Plenty of leaders. Find someone that you trust. There has to be one person, and open up to that individual. Let them know. Let them hold your hand while you're talking to them so you can sense their love and their concern. Let's go back to that word love again, because then you have a spirit just like we do, and we want to connect to where we can help you. Someone is here to help you. Find that person. That would be my number one thing. Find someone that you can trust.
That's big.
That's big.
That's big. So how can someone find you guys? You know, whether it's for some of the services that you guys offer, or whether it's just to ask more questions like, hey, what they said in this interview or this podcast, it really struck something within me, and I just want to reach out and maybe ask some more questions or touch base with you guys. Where can they find you guys?
Okay, our website address is www.dwps.us. And again, that's www.dwps.us. We can also be reached on our telephone line, 804-295-5336.
The name of the business?
Dynamic Works Program Support.
Good. So, you know, this is and this is how I refer to you guys, you know, just Coach and Mrs. Giles. It's been great having you guys on.
Thank you.
You know, I've learned a lot
you.
from you guys over the years. You know, just observing, seeing how you guys deal with children. It's really, you guys have shown me it's not necessarily an age thing. Some people just assume younger people just connect with younger people.
Right.
Meaning that, all right, you got to be in your 20s to connect with teens, and that's not necessarily true. You can be more mature or a little bit older and connect more with teens than younger people, because it's about some of the things that you guys mentioned in the interview, being present,
Yes.
being patient,
Yes.
loving.
Yes.
And I've seen that expressed through you guys.
Yes, sir.
And so without further ado, definitely check them out. Check out their website, reach out. Even if you have questions, I'm sure that they'll be happy to
Yes, sir.
answer
Absolutely.
and help.
Absolutely.
And so until next time, make sure if you're watching on YouTube that you subscribe. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and hit the bell. The bell is there because just because you're subscribed doesn't mean you're always going to be notified when we upload something new. So make sure you hit the bell as well. And again, thank you for having.
Thank you.
I thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Especially with I think I may have asked you a couple days ago. Hey, we want to definitely get you guys on
Absolutely.
to be able to share.
Yes, sir.
More in this area.
sir.
So we'll definitely, keep it going and do some more things in the future.
Yes, sir.
So until next time, guys, be blessed.
This has been another episode of Changing Lives. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on new episodes. Also, find us on the web at mountgileadfgim.org and follow us on Instagram at mountgileadfgim.